When it comes to rejected media, one of the things we love to take a look at here are ideas that never fully came to fruition. These can be entirely canceled projects, they can be things like deleted scenes, they can be rejected pitches and ideas, or even something like today's video, where it was a rejected or passed over casting. I actually make these videos on several different channels, depending on the subject matter, but I always try to post them here on a playlist in case you're interested. Today's subject dives more into the world of 007 as we take a look at Henry Cavill's audition tape for James Bond, something that was essentially lost media until just a few days ago. This had been teased to for many years, and even in 2020, Cavill himself was talking to Men's Health and said, "With the whole Bond process, I screen tested many moons ago, and it was, as far as I know, down to Daniel and myself, maybe one other. I think Mr. Craig, has done an incredible job of being Bond. And if it is indeed his last one," this was referring to No Time to Die at the time, "then the playing field is open. There are no conversations just yet, but we'll see what happens. It would be a great, fun role to play." And while we knew that he had tested for Bond, this footage would go unfound for many different years until finally resurfacing on YouTube, according to the uploader Ron, from being found in a recycling bin along with others, including Anthony Starr trying out for the role and Sam Worthington. Today we're going to be focusing on Cavill because this is a casting that has not died. Fans to this day still post YouTube mock-ups and all these different trailers, fan art, photoshops, all kinds of stuff wishing for Cavill to play Bond, especially fans of the DCEU movie set. If you enjoyed today's video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments down below. That always helps us out a lot, but I do have a question of the day for you, which is, first off, do you think that Cavill could have made a good Bond? And secondly, who would you cast as Bond? I know none of us are professional casting crews or anything like that. I think the most any of us probably have in our house is a casting couch, but at the same time, I do think it's interesting to take a look at fan pitches for things like this and kind of see what someone sees in a potential actor-character crossover. Now, we're going to play a few different parts of this clip that I find interesting, but essentially all of this because it was Martin Campbell directing the movie, who was also the director of GoldenEye, remember, who then went on to direct Casino Royale, which two of the better Bond films being directed by Martin Campbell, not a coincidence. Campbell's involvement is probably why they went with using actual lines of dialogue from GoldenEye in order to screen test Bond for Casino Royale.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
The very words I live by. So tell me, what are the words you live by?
The trick is to quit while you're ahead.
I never learned that trick. Perhaps you'll show me how it's done.
Now, one of the first things to notice is the sound design is absolutely horrible in this room. That is not me, that is just the clip. I do wonder if there was any kind of degradation from this clip just sitting around forever, never being uploaded or digitized anywhere as far as we know, and essentially being tossed into a recycling bin later on and then dug out. It does make me wonder if this originally had more clarity of its sound, but that said, this is kind of what we have to work with. Now, I've seen a lot of people criticize this acting tape as being flat. Personally though, if you go and watch the actual acting in this scene from Pierce Brosnan, who is probably my favorite Bond, just in terms of on-screen interpretations, I love what he brought to the role. I also do love Craig, but when you watch what he does, Bond here is trying to be smooth, suave, kind of impressive, and not show a lot of emotion. So I find the "it's flat" or wooden criticism to be a little weird with this tape, because the whole point is supposed to be that Bond is kind of doing this stoic macho man, I'm at the table, I'm trying to impress act.
I never learned that trick. Perhaps you'll show me how it's done. Vodka martini shaken, not stirred. And you?
The same.
And how do you take it?
Straight up, with a twist. Thank you, Mr.
Bond. James Bond. It appears we share the same passions. 3, anyway.
I count 2. Motoring and Baccarat.
Il pour la banque.
I hope your third is where your real talent lies.
One rises to meet the challenge.
Does Cavill actually match the look of Bond? No, but a lot of different people from their first press junket all the way down to their original audition tapes, as far as we know, didn't look like Bond exactly. They weren't exactly like looking like they jumped out of the film already. This is something that casting directors, they take into account. This is something that any executive worth their salt or writer takes into account, is the fact that just because you have long hair doesn't mean you're not going to get a haircut, right? Now, Martin Campbell, who directed the film, actually told The Express that Cavill almost became Bond, but his age was the issue. He said he looked great in the audition. His acting was tremendous. And look, if Daniel didn't exist, Henry would have made an excellent Bond. He looked terrific. He was in great physical shape. Very handsome, very chiseled. He just looked a little young at the time back then. In another comment, Campbell went on to say Henry's 40, so by the time he's done the third one, he's going to be 50, and anything beyond, that's 2-3 years per Bond. He's in good shape, Henry. He's a good guy. He did very well in the audition, but ironically, he was too young, essentially hinting at the idea that now he would be too old for the role. And I do understand that this is something that is kind of like unfair for fans of the character, or for the actor, I should say. And then maybe they're thinking, well, that's kind of unfair. He was too young. You know, he was 22, but now he's too old because of the amount of movies they did for Craig. Now he doesn't get a shot at it. And I understand that idea, but a lot of this does come down to the direction they want to take the franchise. My understanding is that the new Bond will essentially be another tonal and canonical reboot. We don't know how many times they'll do this, but that said, the current rumor, or the current heavily hinted at rumor, is essentially that they're looking for a much younger Bond that can play the role for quite a while, have it be believable as 007 can be, because it is fiction, and then move on from there. They're not looking for someone in their early 40s. They're not looking for someone who already is this very, very, I would say, established actor, and also someone who has lived a life under their belt. They're looking now for a young person, almost like Cavill was when he originally auditioned. Now, would that person be 22? Probably not, but somebody in their late 20s to early 30s would make a lot of sense. Craig himself was, I believe, early-ish 30s at the time, and so it made sense being a commander, obviously, and being someone who had already served in Britain, that he would become a 00 agent. It made sense that he had had a life and military career prior to becoming Bond because of his age, whereas that wouldn't really make sense for a 22-year-old. Cavill now looks the role like he could play a spy. He could play Bond. He's played spies before in terms of looks. But sometimes it's the smallest things that actually get someone cast. For example, one of the key points that actually led to Daniel Craig's casting as Bond, other than just his looks and being someone who did look like he lived a life, was reportedly his walk, his suave, his swagger. The fact that he walked with confidence that screamed James Bond.
The thing that really set me, and I went, it has to be him, in Elizabeth. Him walking down the corridor. And it was just like, that is the most charismatic person I've ever seen on the screen.
When a lot of people look at a walk, they might not think of a character. You might not look at a walk and think, oh, this is Superman. Oh, this is Batman. Oh, this is James Bond. But when it comes down to it, in his Becoming Bond documentary, that is actually what was cited as one of the reasons for him becoming James Bond, was his walk. Something that maybe Cavill didn't have at the time. Cavill had actually starred in other films like The Count of Monte Cristo, but that doesn't mean that he was right for the role at the time. That said, there's going to be people who really wish that he had been Bond, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below what you think he might have brought to the role that maybe Craig didn't. I know, again, none of us are expert casting directors, but I still find it an interesting conversation to have. I don't think you had to go to film school in order to have a valid opinion. If you enjoy this video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I appreciate it very much. Like I said, rejected media is something that I try to do on multiple channels, whether it be here, whether it be on JayRPG, where I cover role-playing games, or even Magical Jill, where I actually cover more anime type stuff with my wife. Also, as well, we do have our own Fortnite code, DJAY123. That helps out our channel quite a bit. And as well, we do have our own store, CosmoBunny.shop, where you can buy coasters, keychains, trays, and more from recycled comic book, manga, magazine, and more paper. These are from books that are damaged, unable to be sold. We salvage some of the paper, we salvage some of these pieces from it, we turn it into transformative art projects for your home, and we recycle the rest and keep it out of landfills. We appreciate you very much. We hope you have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.